What's up, my friends? Welcome to Carpo's YouTube channel's 15,000 subscriber special. Don't expect much. It's definitely not a special. It's kind of a half joke. I even thought about asking my subscribers, like, what should I do for 15,000 subs? And it's the strangest thing, because I really never thought that I would even have this many people watching my channel. And I never really tried to gain subs, although I enjoy having subs because I love the feedback. And, you know, having a little bit of an ego boost always helps. You know, that's just the brutal honesty, you know, about how we operate as humans. You know, we're always looking for approval and whatnot. In my case, you know, I didn't start the YouTube channel to gain subs or to make money or to spill my guts or talk about my life, really. I ended up talking about, like, prepping and being ready for a disaster or catastrophe back before 2012, you know, and I didn't really think anything was going to happen so much in 2012, but there was a time when I was really interested in the Mayan calendar. Oh, and mind you, the costume I'm currently wearing, just because I'm sure you'll wonder, this is actually just a piece of fabric. I sewed it, and it just made it a quick tie out of it, and then a little headband. We used that. This is what we're doing for the seat material on the bus seats, and so my wife got a bunch of that, and the scraps I cut off the end when we made the cushions, I just kind of was messing around with it. But so back to business. You know, when I started doing this channel, it was the strangest thing. I'd have maybe, you know, 10 or 15 people who watched my videos, and for the longest time, you know, and we'd talk back and forth. And over the years, I've just met so many different people and watched people come and go. I've seen people who, you know, who are like, wow, I can't believe I didn't find your channel sooner, than other people who have been watching my channel for a while who are probably just sick of me and are like, oh, because they disappear, you know, and I totally understand that, because I can rub some people the wrong way, and especially when it comes to politics or if I have a certain viewpoint. You know, it's just how the human mind operates, but it's not even that. It's not even personal or differences. It's just that we grow bored with certain channels, certain ideas. And when I've been in, say, a really intense kratom mode, when there's intense things going on with the kratom world, I might make a bunch of kratom videos and then find a bunch of people who find my channel through the kratom videos and think, oh, he must talk about kratom, and then subscribe and find out I'm talking about all kinds of weird random things. And there was a period in my life where I was into occult knowledge or studying, you know, the occult. Basically just hidden knowledge, not necessarily the occult, you know. I think that name has so many misconceptions about it, but I was all about knowledge, and I've always been about knowledge. And so the whole time I've had this channel, all I've wanted to do is just share the wisdom that I have for what it's worth. Not expecting, you know, to think that I know better than anyone else. In fact, any one person who thinks they really know what's going on is delusional. And I'll tell you, I've kind of been in the phase where I thought that I was in the minority camp of people who understood kind of what was going on in the world. I went down a road of conspiracy theory, but it started back in 1998, before the internet was huge and before anyone really, you know, so many people had organized around and rallied around so many different ideas and brought back the flat earth bullshit and all that. You know, I can't even entertain it now because it's so much of a waste of time, but still I do, because it's part of my life. I'm always encountering people who are like, have you heard of this or have you heard of that? And I'm like, and you end up getting these quotes like, do more research, do more research. It's like, oh my God. In fact, earlier I grabbed this little book that I write in. It's a journal I've been writing in for, you know, several years. I've got a bunch of different ones, and I flipped to this random page, and it said 10 things to do in order to lose friends, or to, you know, to make sure that you don't, you know, attract any friends or you know, relationships. And it was basically like, you know, make sure that you're always assertive and you always think that you're right, and take everything personal. Don't give people a chance to explain themselves. Always refer to some fallacy. And it's just the arguments that we tend to have. And when I argue with people about conspiracies on the internet, that's just kind of, you know, the cold shoulder that I get, that they don't care if I've done my research if I don't agree with them. But it's not just conspiracies, it's religion, it's I've done so much, you know, research into the different religions, how they came about, the types of followers, how they morphed into other religions. I'm no theologian by any standard. I'm no expert on any one particular medieval history of anything. I enjoy learning about things, you know, and all the little bits and pieces. They're very difficult to put into words and to share and express them. So I think that's why the more we learn, the more we become, we become, first of all, more articulate in the way that we speak. We learn to use better words, better choice of words. And then after a while, we learn to not be too liberal with our words, that to not just use big words merely because we know them. Because everything, in my belief, in my opinion, should be put into layman terms. And I guess what I'm saying is there is nothing more boring, more appalling, and more insulting than hearing a bunch of intellectuals talk in a group to try to talk to and explain something to someone who's like a layman and just asking a general question. You know, oh, well, you know, let me ponder that for a moment. You know, big words are just words, but sometimes they're necessary, and most of the time they're not. So, I guess really what I'm getting at is that we're all here to share our information. We're all here to share the knowledge that we have, and even we can't be so arrogant to think that we have the only way, but we can't beat ourselves up. We can't put ourselves down. We have one chance at this. I mean, this life is like, you've got to slap yourself and remember that. In fact, I made a video yesterday. It was only like 2 minutes long, but I never uploaded it. I guess I could condense it right here and say the same thing. Don't let people beat you up. Don't let people beat you up metaphorically or, you know, literally. Don't take abuse. Don't put yourself in the position where you're putting up with someone else's abusive bullshit merely because you figure that's just the way it has to be, or that's the way it's always been. First off, if you're in an abusive relationship, you have a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend that beats on you, get away from them if they can't control themselves, because that is ridiculous. It's not normal. It's not something that all couples do. My wife and I never have come to blows. I've been with my wife for almost 20 years. This December, we've been together 20 years. We've only been married for like 6 of those, but we've more or less been engaged the whole time. She is a wonderful person. Her and I have had moments of falling out in the past, but we've never come to blows or gotten physical or beat each other up, and especially not mentally. That's the other thing. You can't build up resentments and then pick on someone for something else that's unrelated. If I'm doing something stupid, she'll call me out on it, that's for sure. And I know that, but she won't go and harbor some resentment and put it off on something else. And I don't put up with people that do that. When I've had friends in the past who have always tried to blame other people for their problems, that's another thing. That's something that really turns me off in life, is people who always want to blame others. They might blame the government, they might blame their teachers, their parents, anything to get away from the responsibility of just acting now and being human. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but look, you know, I've had kind of rough times in my life too, you know? What was that? It's windy out there. Life can be rough. Shit happens, you know? I mean, of all the things that have happened to me in my life, I have a hard time really remembering the bad times. You know, I always remember the big events that caused me grief in my life, but there weren't that many of them. But when I think of all the small ones, how many times I moved around before I was even like 12 years old. I mean, it's like, it's difficult to really fathom how we're affected by all these different factors in our lives. But, you know, it's just the weirdest thing growing up. It's the strangest thing to think that when I started YouTube and really started making videos, it was almost 8 years ago. I think it was maybe 7 years ago. Is that right? So that's a crazy long time to make videos almost every single day. And in that time, I realized that I was only like 35 when I started. I've grown 7 years in that time. I've learned so many new things that I can look back on some of my old follies and say, okay, well, at least I wasn't too far off, but I've had some crazy ideas, you know. And the one thing that I've learned through the experience here is just to always keep things open-ended. And never be so sure of yourself that you think that you know what you're talking about all the time, because I never have tried to ever claim that, and I think that's why I enjoy this so much. But there's one thing to say about that. If you don't make bold claims, you won't cause too much controversy. But if you don't make bold claims, you also won't stir up any serious conversation. And that's my brother right there. I should probably not take it because I'm making a video right now, but my brother's a good guy, you know. I figured it's probably a good time to talk about that, you know, and add that to the video. It's a huge part of my life and something I don't ever talk about. He's my only sibling, you know, and since my dad died when I was younger, I have my mom on my side, but she lives locally, and Nick, my brother, I haven't seen him in like a year or more, and he only lives up in Hood River, maybe 45-minute drive, if you haul ass. And he wanted me to be on his podcast. He does this thing called the Cellar Dwellers podcast. He just started doing it. It's for his local Hood River disc golf course, and he's really always been really into disc golf. But we've had our ups and downs, but we grew up together and we played guitar together and learned instruments, learned how to jam and have the same taste in music. You know, went to Dead shows barefoot. You know, not necessarily together. We actually kind of did our own thing, but both of us enjoyed the same type of atmosphere. And you know, after my parents divorced when I was 12, and then my dad died when I was 15. Then both of us lived with my mom, and at that time we decided to, you know, travel out to go to festivals and shows. My brother kind of split home. But I had some pretty crazy experiences back then, you know? I mean, like, growing up was, growing up's wild, you know? I wanted to make a video earlier about video games, about kids and video games. Because it's like, when I grew up, I was just thinking of the short attention span we all have now because of phones and in computer and the internet, and how, you know, it's like Asteroids or Pac-Man or any Donkey Kong, you know, Mario Brothers, any of those games would keep you occupied, and they were pretty mindless too. But there was something about, at least that novelty of the first games, you know, which even people today know. It's so weird watching 8-bit come back into style. When I was young, when I was in the 90s, I was like in the kind of resurgence of the hippies, if you will. There was, for a while, everybody was wearing tie-dyes again and everything, and I was part of that crowd when I was in high school. And I remember saying, well, if in the 90s the 60s have returned, then I bet in the 2000s the 70s will return, and then in the 2000 teens the 80s will return. And I don't know if the 70s ever really made a full resurgence, but the 80s are back. It's crazy. My son listens to Glitch Hop. He's 9 years old, and he plays this game called Geometry Dash. And so he hears the songs on there, and then he wants to hear it, and I download the songs for him on his little MP3 player at 9. And I think when I was 9, I was listening to like Rat and Wasp, hardcore heavy metal, you know, and rap at the same time, NWA by the time I was 10 or 11. I mean, my brother and I were cussing up a storm. I mean, at least he's somewhat, you know, not that bad, but the music today is it's funny because he listens to a lot of the same stuff I do, you know, because I still kind of listen to new music as it comes out. So, yeah, I don't know, growing up was a weird thing, you know, for everyone, I'm sure. We all have the same experience of our weird childhoods, but some of us blocked them out. And I found that I blocked a lot of it out, but if I really stop and think about it, I can start bringing back, you know, a lot of the moments. So this video is already getting pretty long. I guess I just wanted to make kind of a 15,000 subscriber, hey, what's up? It's pretty cool maybe I'll make a separate video just for that, and then I can ask you guys, like, what, you know, what I should do for the 15,000 sub thing, if anything. So this video, I guess I'll just label about my life. That way I can warn people who don't want to hear my boring stories about my life. But it feels good to get it out, and you know, we all have some crazy history, you know. I will talk to y'all later, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and have a happy Friday the 13th. Peace.